In September 2022, in the G-Tech Community Stadium in a London derby between Arsenal and Brentford on the 8th matchday of the Premier League season, Arsenal made history. Seen one of our academy players make history by becoming the youngest ever Arsenal player, overtaking Cesc Fabregas, and becoming the youngest ever player to appear in the Premier League at just the age of 15 years old. At the time, it was thought by a lot of rival fans that this move didn't mean much and it was just an attempt by Arsenal to try gain some headlines. And since that game, Ethan Nwaneri has only played one game for the senior team since making history. So rival fans were actually right to think that. But now all through preseason already for Arsenal, a lot of takeaways can be taken from the two games we've seen. Now, I will make a video at the end of preseason covering everything, but with Calafiori set to join Arsenal any moment now in the US, to Smith Rowe set to leave Arsenal to join Fulham, arguably the biggest talking point out of everything right now, that has been Arsenal's academy product, Ethan Nwaneri. Now, I think Lewis Skelly has been a monster for Arsenal. I think even with his mistake, Aiden Heaven or Aiden Heaven, however you want to say it, has been awesome. But to me, Ethan Nwaneri, he is having a preseason that to me is very reminiscent of the one that Saka had a few years ago. Nwaneri looked so comfortable on the ball, and at the age of just 17, he does not look out of place at all. And with Smith Rowe now on the verge of leaving, there is a spot opening up on the team. Even with Arsenal set to get Real Sociedad's Mikel Merino, there is still an opening for Ethan Nwaneri. So what should Arsenal look to do with Ethan Nwaneri? Should we loan him out to give him consistent game time? Should we keep him in our academy? Or is he good enough already to play rotational minutes in an Arsenal team looking to make a push for the Premier League? Well, that's what we'll be talking about today. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Gunner Central here. I hope you're all doing well. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. Ethan Nwaneri joined Arsenal at the age of 9 years old in 2015. And at the age of just 14 years old, the midfielder was already representing Arsenal at the under 18 level. And at the age of 15 years old, Ethan Nwaneri was already moved up to the under 21 level for Arsenal and even joined the professional team for a training session here and there in September of 2022. Later that month in September, Ethan Nwaneri came off the bench, replacing Fabio Vieira in stoppage time of our 3-0 win over Brentford, becoming the youngest Premier League player ever, overtaking Harvey Elliott for the honour. Mikel explained after the game that Arsenal were forced to do this, especially with the injury of Martin Odegaard, and that Mikel Arteta had a gut feeling that it was the right thing to do with Ethan Nwaneri. In 2023, Ethan signed a new scholarship deal with Arsenal, seeing a professional deal kick in on his 17th birthday in March 2024. Ethan then made his second appearance for the first team in our fantastic 6-0 win over West Ham when he came off the bench in the 77th minute. Now, it's no secret that Smith Rowe is on his way out. Heck, by the time I release this video, he might have already been confirmed as leaving. Arsenal are looking to bring in a midfielder during this window, be it with the PSG man Fabian Ruiz, someone who was absolutely phenomenal during the Euros, or more likely Mikel Merino from Real Sociedad, someone who was also decent during the Euros but didn't get much game time, and someone I've also made a video about already. So with Smith Rowe leaving and us bringing in another midfielder, plus still having the likes of Thomas Partey, Jorginho, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, Fabio Vieira, and now obviously the potential addition of Mikel Merino, is there actually any minutes and any space for someone like Ethan Nwaneri in this first team as currently constructed? Well, one thing about Ethan Nwaneri is that even at the age of 17 years old, he is a very versatile player. Ethan's main position, in my opinion, is the number 10 role, so the Martin Odegaard or Fabio Vieira role. But as we have seen during preseason, Ethan Nwaneri is still extremely talented and capable as a number 8. But as we have seen also from the academy days, he can also play on either wing position. And at the under 18 level, Ethan Nwaneri has even got some game at striker. Now, I wouldn't personally ever profile Nwaneri as a striker, but everywhere from the 8 to the 10 to both the left wing and preferably the right wing, well, that's where I would say Ethan Nwaneri can play. And I think Ethan Nwaneri is very suited for those roles. Ethan is a left-footed player that has a good burst of pace. He is technically so impressive for a 17-year-old, and he is surprisingly physically strong enough to hold his own against professional players. So this is where and why I think Arsenal's best decision moving forward is to keep Ethan Nwaneri in the first team this summer. Because Ethan Nwaneri is such a versatile player, that is already a huge plus, being that we all know how much Arteta likes players that can play multiple positions. Ethan Nwaneri can play minutes for us as a backup 10, as a backup 8, and even more importantly, as a backup winger. Last season, we simply didn't have enough cover at all for Bukayo Saka, and Ethan Nwaneri, being left-footed, could certainly provide cover for Bukayo Saka out wide. Nwaneri could also provide even more cover at the 10 position for the likes of Odegaard or could provide more cover for the likes of Declan Rice in the 8th position, and he could play in cup games. And the most important reason I think keeping Ethan Nwaneri for Arsenal is actually to just encourage other Arsenal academy players and prevent another Cheeto over Martin issue from happening. Under Arteta, Mikel has brought through almost 0 academy players other than Emil Smith-Rowe. I know technically Smith-Rowe was brought through by both Wenger and Unai Emery, but Smith-Rowe only started playing real minutes for Arsenal under Mikel Arteta. So it would be another encouraging sign if Nwaneri is brought through, even as a fringe player in our squad this season. They'll have some match days where he'll get dropped back down to the under 23 level if needed. Many other academy prospects will see Nwaneri getting his chance in the first team, and that will encourage them to stay and develop at Arsenal. Cheeto may have thought that Arteta isn't huge on bringing through academy players, and that's why he wanted to leave. So someone like Ethan Nwaneri could change that mindset for the prospects at our club. Keeping Ethan in the team does not harm anyone. It allows us to have yet another versatile player in areas that we might be a little bit light in. He's 17 years old, so it's time for Ethan to get into men's football, and instead of loaning him, we could develop him, let him train and let him play with the first team. Let him provide much needed backup for Saka, allowing us to maybe focus the rest of our transfer markets on some midfielders and maybe even a striker, not have to worry about a winger or another third backup as a 10 or as an 8. And if Ethan Nwaneri isn't getting enough minutes at the first team level, he can keep training with the first team, but he can play some games here and there with the under 21s and under 23s. That wouldn't harm anyone. I know it's only preseason, but Ethan Nwaneri has been arguably one of our better players throughout the friendlies, even getting an assist against Manchester United after playing 80-ish minutes against an almost first team Bournemouth, where Ethan Nwaneri was arguably one of the players of the match. Keeping Ethan Nwaneri would be great for the squad depth, and it would be great for us fans and our youth academy as a whole. I really hope Ethan Nwaneri is kept in the first team this summer and is afforded some game time in the upcoming season, and maybe he could be our first choice backup for Bukayo Saka, as well as providing good minutes in the midfield when needed. Arsenal need to keep Ethan Nwaneri.